Greetings and salutations, fellow survivors. It is I, Eric J. Chucky, joined as always by the boy.
Hey.
This is the Two Nerds Podcast. Like the video, comment on the video, subscribe to the video. If you could, click the links in the description to buy my books. Support me on Patreon. You could be cool like Rob and a guy from Ohio. Come check me out on Twitch. Subscribe to me on Twitch. Use your fucking Bezos bucks to subscribe to me on Twitch, where you don't have to pay anything, and I take money straight from mega corporation Amazon and use it to buy dumb shit. You can also join us on Discord to chat about things. Is that everything, my robot companion?
I believe so. It is time for 2021 to get... Well, I was going to make some sort of, I don't know, fatalistic joke about a final nail in its coffin or whatever, but no, it's just time to put it to bed. Move on and talk about all the shit that we really loved, because the Two Nerds Podcast is a positive place.
You know, if we're going to be positive and supportive and good like we usually are, I need to call myself out for something.
Okay.
Every time we do a podcast, I endeavor to find art that is official. Like, if we're talking about Marvel characters, I want art from the comics, not fan art. If we're talking about D&D stuff, I want to get art from, official supplements that Wizards put out, not fan art. I don't like benefiting from other people's efforts without their permission. But for some reason, every time we do this year in review, I just grab whatever fucking clip art of the date I can find. I could do this myself, and I don't. So big shame on me. You know what? When 2022 rolls around, we'll forget about this, and I'll use clip art again.
You're goddamn right, we will.
This year in review, it is important to mention, is a review of what we did in this year, not necessarily shit that came out in this year.
We are, in many ways, behind the times.
Yes. Well, there's just so much content to consume.
And so, if we try to limit it to just stuff that came out this year, I have to spend my whole year trying to make sure I'm consuming stuff that's brand new, and that's not going to bring me joy.
No.
So this is just what we did this year. The favorite, our favorite whatever that for our experience. Now, fancifully enough, for most of this list, I think it's a bunch of stuff that did come out this year for me, but not everything.
A little bit of this, a little bit of that for me, but I suppose let's just get on into it, right?
Yep. Our first category is favorite video game.
What was yours? What was your favorite video game in 2021?
Dark Souls 3. Dark Souls 3, I think, by virtue of data, by looking at the numbers, has to be my favorite video game.
The numbers don't lie.
Numbers, I was going to make a quote from Pacific Rim, but I'm going to not.
I was making an allusion to the great mathematician Scott Steiner.
Of course. But I think it just has to be. Like, you can go back to older podcasts and hear me bitch long and loud about how Dark Souls is overrated. But
we had something called the I Was Wrong Award. And I believe it was Dark Souls for you. Yes, 2018, honorable mention.
Dark Souls. I was wrong. And it got in there. It got into my spirit, into my soul. Dark Souls 3 infected me. And I have beaten that game at least 7 times.
Dark Souls is...
More, I believe, but at least 7. It has to be... I do not replay video games. I don't rewatch movies. I don't reread books. I have beaten Dark Souls 3 at least 7 times. It is my favorite video game.
And that is really saying something because, okay, commenter, and please go ahead and do it. It is engagement. It all counts. Yeah, obviously, we've talked about how we're rewatching movies, especially when showing them to other people. But that is, at most, 3 hours of our time, not 40.
And I have rewatched a bunch of Marvel movies and stuff that I really like. But even still, I'm not rewatching those again. I love some of those movies, but I'm not going to go back and watch, Iron Man 3 again. I know all of Iron Man 3 now. I don't need to rewatch it.
I might rewatch Iron Man 3 again.
And you do that. And if I'm in the room, I might watch it with you, but I'm never going to seek those movies out again. It's not something I typically do, even with stuff I really love.
Yeah.
So, in the same way that by the numbers, Saint Young Men must be my favorite movie, by the numbers, Dark Souls 3 must be my favorite video game of all time. It's very good. It's very fun. And it's got a lot of legs. There's a lot of different ways you can play that game. It's hard, but it's fair.
Dark Souls 3 is also a good game for the 2020-2021 year because it teaches you to keep going.
In the face of trial and tribulation and setback, your only choice is go hollow or keep walking, and you just gotta keep walking.
Flame's still burning. Bonfire's there. We'll get you beating Madeir this year, I think. I think that's this year's goal.
Yeah, maybe. Or I might just start playing Elden Ring.
Shit, yeah. I had a lot of games this year that I really loved, which is in stark contrast to previous years where I was playing like one or two things. I played through Hades and The Messenger, brand new, and was really enamored of both of them. I destroyed Hades. I didn't find all the secrets, but like that's the most I finished a game in a long time.
He got the complete gold ending. Like he got the final ending. Do you have any idea how many times you have to beat Hades to do that? Because he does.
10.
That's just ridiculous. Hades looks so fucking hard. I could not beat that video game. My brain couldn't process what you were doing at certain points.
It's just the exact kind of like I talk about how bad I am at video games, but Hades happens to fall right in the realm of what I'm good at. Twitch reflex and acting without thinking, and that being a good thing.
Nope, I'm not that guy.
That's why I'm bad at Sekiro, but good at Dark Souls.
Shit's why I'm iron.
The Messenger was also just a love letter to gaming, like in a video game. I also put Final Fantasy V up there because I beat it twice this year.
It's a fun game.
On the Game Boy Advance version and the Pixel remaster. That's like I replay stuff more than you do, rewatch, whatever. But for a 40-hour RPG, for me to beat it twice in 1 year, that is saying something. Honorable mentions for Animal Crossing because my ass is still playing and I've plugged like 2,000 hours into the game. Final Fantasy VI Brave New World, mostly because it brought me a lot of new friends and places to hang out in the New Game Plus area. And the Enhancer edition of Chrono Trigger, which, similar, yeah.
All right. Then I believe it's time to move on to our next category.
Yeah, this one's going to go by quick.
Yeah. Oh boy, because we have the same answer on this one. You got some honorable mentions. I don't think I did any honorable mentions this year.
They were the same thing as...
Yeah, I know. My favorite movie in 2021, and I sat down and I thought about it to make sure it wasn't recency bias, because I did just see this movie a couple days ago. But it's not. It's Spider-Man No Way Home. The movie's fucking phenomenal.
You can go watch our podcast on it. I put an honorable mention for The Suicide Squad and Streets of Fire, which we talk about in our movie homework, which was last week's podcast. So,
yeah, go watch the podcast, because I have some issues with the movie, but it's fucking phenomenal. Yeah. I loved it.
One of the best movies I've seen in really a long time. Here's something else that 2021 was a great year for. You and I aren't big TV watchers.
Me more so than you.
Yes, I would agree with that. But even still, we're not like up on all the new hotness.
Series watchers, that's not really what I do.
No. But this year had some really unprecedentedly good entries. My favorite TV and or web shows this year, because I didn't start watching a lot of new web shows. I got in a little bit of Atriox stuff, but that's not really, I wouldn't call it a web show. I suppose that is literally what it is. Anyway, the two Marvel series, Loki and Hawkeye. I love Loki. I love everything it represents and everything it will be going forward. Hawkeye was one of the best self-contained serial stories I've seen since Luke Cage.
Yeah, that's fair. That's about what we're talking with.
And we did podcasts on both of them, so you can look into more there. Honorable mention, I started watching Murder, She Wrote this year. And I do like that show. It's been really fun. I'm about halfway through it. And my other honorable mention
is my favorite TV show from 2021, which is Arcane. Several people have already said it. I won't be the first. But PSA, just because you loved Arcane, do not go play League of Legends.
And if you do, you better fucking practice before you go into an ARAM and try to mess up my game, you asshole. That was put on a little bit.
But Arcane's fucking great. It's the best TV show I watched this year. I loved Loki. I loved Hawkeye. But
I didn't watch Murder, She Wrote.
I didn't watch Murder, She Wrote. But fucking Arcane is... It's what I've always wanted from the League of Legends lore. This kind of care, attention to detail. It's an incredibly well done series. It's something you don't need to give any percent of a shit about League of Legends to love. Because the world, Runeterra, is so rich and complex and has so much potential that you can take this one tiny little personal story corner of it and turn it into a giant prestige television show, and everyone loves it. Because it's fucking great.
The more I think about it and analyze it and see it through the eyes of other people, the more I enjoy the show. I really think the only reason it wasn't my favorite is because it wasn't about some of my favorite parts of the League lore, my favorite characters and locations and stuff. So, but it is incredibly well done. And Silco,
fucking class villain. The kind of villain you wait for in life.
Yeah, just wow, how well done. I might, all this talk of rewatching, I might sit down and rewatch Arcane at some point just
to really give it a shot.
Really bathe in it. What about your favorite RPG character you played? NPCs do count for this.
NPCs do count, but I chose a PC. I chose a beautiful idiot. Her name is 5 puns, and I'm not going to explain them. You know. She is a sharpshooter fighter.
She was an Echo Knight.
Yeah, Echo Knight.
Which we were playing a little bit against rules, but I was the DM.
I was allowed to use the ranged weapon with my Echo Knight because I want to have fun. That's more fun. Shut up. I would let someone do it in one of my games.
I don't know that it broke anything. Like, I can see why you'd put that in there.
I basically would have just changed some tiny things about what I did in terms of any individual combat. It still would have worked. I just would have had to move some stuff around.
Yeah, it's fine.
But I love this character. She was dumb as a box of fucking rocks, but good-hearted and very interesting. She went through a storyline that White was in charge of. He was the DM. And
it was the DLC from Dark Souls 2.
It was that.
Crossed with Final Fantasy 1.
I don't want to say nothing.
I am a student of the Matt Colville school of Steel.
Steel. And I've never played 2, so there you go. And like, I loved the character she was involved in, but also I liked the character a lot. She was reborn, I believe is the term.
The core premise was my favorite part about her, because she was a zombie, and the Echo Knight was her ghost.
Yeah, was her spirit. So, you know those, I think there's like some fun memes online of a zombie and the ghost talking to one another, like of the same guy. That, but like Moon Knight.
Yeah.
She worshipped the moon and thought the moon was great, and I made sure all her outfit shit was the moon, and she used moon arrows, and just, it was fun to play someone who was just not burdened. Because she had a very, like, kind of a dark backstory. She was from a kingdom so old that no one had names for it anymore. But she got back up one day and had to live with that. So she just sort of found some people who the moon said was important, the other PCs, and decided to see where undeath took her. And it was just nice to play someone who was, despite having gone through some shit, she died a rebel to take down an evil, corrupt king who no one even remembers. Wasn't angry, wasn't bitter, just was unburdened, living her best life. Yulong. Great.
2021 was a complicated year of D&D for us. We had people move out of our role-playing group, sometimes suddenly, sometimes less suddenly. We had the longest campaign of the year, I believe, at least in terms of time it took from beginning to end, was for a brand new DM, and he was going in under less than ideal circumstances. That is to say, a large party and a lot of ideas. And, you know, it's still hard times out there, Daddy. So we didn't get as much rich D&D in as we usually do. My favorite characters to play were either Lapore, who is my shark dude paladin of hunger. I intended to play him as Mr. Smite and Ignite, but he ended up being more the group babysitter. In a good way. Like, he wants to take care of everyone, make sure they're doing well, and when everybody is up and running...
He's a big brother, not a babysitter.
Yeah, big brother's a good way to put it.
Because he's also not afraid to put a noogie on a motherfucker.
Exactly, yeah, that's true. He's been a lot of fun. I get to be real loud and use an Australian accent and...
I'm the DM.
Say dumb shit.
We all needed... That whole group needed a nice, fresh, clean campaign that was simple. It was about killing big monsters. So I stole the premise of Monster Hunter, and we're doing that.
I am looking forward to next year. We got a lot of stuff lined up for our smaller campaigns, and our big one is going to be something I'm running in space. So
should be fun.
The only other one was an NPC I played in the game with Yulian Kurai, who was an herbalist who ran a small flower and potion shop, and was very large and wore a plague doctor's mask and was very intimidating based on some art I saw on Tumblr once.
Kurai was great. One of my favorite NPCs for the campaign.
He was a cool dude. So the surprise of the year, this is sometimes referred to as the I Was Wrong Award, and I guess technically you could call it that, but this was just the surprise of the year.
I'd call this I would call this a We Both Fucked Up award. Not you and me, but like us and CM Punk. The surprise of the year was that he said he was sorry. He didn't like grovel, because he's not the kind of guy who would, and I wouldn't have wanted that anyway. But he acknowledged that he did some fuck shit. And that's all I ever wanted.
And apologized for it. Like, that... He literally said the words, "I'm sorry."
Yeah, which is not something I ever would have... You could have given me 10,000 monkeys and 10,000 typewriters, and I would not have been able to call Chicago-made Punk saying sorry for fucking anything ever. And he did. And it let me let go of the last tiny little kernel of bitterness I had and just really enjoy AEW. And really enjoy him and get to enjoy CM Punk again. Because I was a humongous CM Punk mark.
Same.
And it just was stunning. Just fucking stunning. My jaw actually opened. Like, in real life, I did the fucking gape mouth expression.
Yeah.
What's yours, sir?
It's just that.
Oh, yes, that's right.
I have some audibles here, and I might type them up so that we have them for posterity. We do keep, back to 2016 when we started this nonsense, a list of everything we say. This is the favorite activity or thing you did the most this year category. My answer is pretty straightforward, but, like, honestly, there's other stuff. What did I do? I wrote a fucking book. Link in the description.
It's really good.
I'm really proud of it, actually. I think this might be my favorite book that I've written. Maybe it was the one before. It's really close. I think 5 and 6 are both really solid books. It took a lot out of me. This is my prognosticating ass in February of 2020 when I think I'm going to take an extended vacation from work. I'd saved up a couple $1,000 and, did that so I could write my book. It's been a while. I wanted to dive into it. It was a big part of the reason I got back into it, and it happened. And my vacation got extended.
Yeah, it did.
So I managed to crank out another one, and I'm really, really happy with how they both turned out. Now, I only said I wrote a book, but also I have been streaming. And, man, I really do like streaming.
It's fun.
It was something I started to force myself to go through some of my backlog. A lot of the games that I've just been...
Neglecting
or being like, well, I'll get to it. But, like, I've met some really cool people through there, and it's just fun to, play games in front of people and draw little possums that you can get if you subscribe to my Twitch channel. You know what else I did this year that was great? Patreon. I kid. That's been up for a while. How about you?
Mine was two things. One is something you're probably familiar with if you're watching this, and dear Lord, if you're this far into it, thanks, because you guys don't normally cross over. Journey of Wrestling. I fucking love playing Journey of Wrestling with White Raven. It feels like getting back into a hobby we have both been denied by the universe. And it's so fucking fun. And you guys clearly love it because it's the most watched thing on our channel. It's fun to do. It's fun to tell these news stories with characters that you're familiar with in a new way. Wrestling fan fiction, but not weird and about like the real people in real life. But the other thing I've been doing a lot this year is reading web serials. I've mentioned this countless times on the podcast. I read a lot of fan fiction because it's free and there's a lot of it, and I read really fast, so I need a lot of material to go through. So I read a lot of fan fiction about shit. I'll read fan fiction about shit I don't care about things I've never seen. But something I've discovered a lot recently is people who write fan fiction, especially in the last few years, have also begun pairing that with writing original fiction intended for publishing or just intended to be original fiction on the web, and that's really sort of blown up in the spheres I operate in online. So I've been reading a bunch of them, and they're all, of varying quality. Well, usually a little better than fan fiction, because there's usually a lot more care and effort put into something that this is their thing.
Mm-hmm. You're playing with your own toys instead of your neighbors.
And that means a different thing to people. I want to shout out one specifically. It's on a lot of places. I believe it's, if it's not being published, it's already been published. It's called Beware of Chicken. It is a very unique take on a very popular genre in China. And it's a wonderful slice of life anime in book form. And I like that a lot. It's a very comfortable, fun thing to read. I can be reasonably assured everything isn't going to go to shit for no reason. That's nice.
If I may, actually, this does follow into the theme of the other things I did this year. And qualifies for Surprise of the Year as well, although I still think CM Punk is a bit bigger. I have been writing
a web serial.
For whatever reason, everything I do is out of spite, and I read a web serial that upset me.
Listen, White's most powerful motivator as a creator is, I could do this better than you.
It really is, and I don't like that about myself, but it's true, so here we are. So I started doing it, and I started doing it in genres that I don't personally care for that much, and it's fun. I'm using a lot of old D&D ideas that just never really found a place to sit, and I'm interpreting them. B, it's, as of the next chapter I post, which should be up by the time this video goes up. In fact, there should be 4 chapters up. Longer than my first 3 books.
It's called Red Company. It's available. Links are available in the Discord, which you can also join. The link in the description. It's very good. It's about a novel's length at this point. And if you're interested in the idea of the genre it's a part of, lit RPG, if you're familiar with it, I'd say give it a shot. It's a very unique take on the genre, and one that I like a lot.
Mostly because I don't know fuck from shit about the genre, really.
Yeah, he read one example of it. A very iconic example, which we won't be naming here because I don't want to be mean.
Mostly, clearly that person put a lot of personality and care into their story, and
hated it anyway.
It's not their fault I hated it. Well, I suppose it is.
It is
entirely
literally
their fault.
Yes.
Anyway, let's move on to Anthem of the Year. Mine is kind of a weird pick. There are a lot of old classic rock songs that I heard this year. Sometimes for the first time. Some, favorites that probably could have qualified. Some songs on TikTok, that get in my head and I really enjoy them. But Nobuo Uematsu's Battle on the Big Bridge. I said earlier that I beat Final Fantasy V twice this year, and they were both big moments. And that song is intrinsic, is identifying of that game.
Iconic.
Iconic, thank you. I knew it was an I word. Intensity, integrity, intelligence. What are the other ones? I also used it to score a bit of the final battle in my book that I published, link in the description. And it really helped. And it really brought out a certain energy. And it is a classic piece of music that I find very interesting. I don't know, musically, from a music design standpoint. So that's what I went with.
Mine was, traditionally, my anthem of the year is probably going to be just whatever song I kept going back to. Because I don't sit around and listen to music all the time. Normally I'm listening to a podcast if I'm listening to something. So if there's a song that I keep going back to over and over again throughout the year, there's probably a reason for that. For me this year, it was The Data Stream. It's a song by a YouTuber called The Stupendium. It's about, it has the aesthetics of Cyberpunk 2077. The song is about a lot of stuff. It's about the cyberpunk genre and
how you get there.
And today. We'll put it like that. The song has some actual very cogent points to make. It's very fun. The rapping is good. And it's a fucking earworm. It sticks in my head like you would not believe.
You mentioned that I listened to it before the show. I'm not a follower of this guy's music, although he does do good stuff. But you said I'd probably heard you rapping it,
You probably
yourself.
Have.
The second verse was the part that I had definitely heard you saying before.
Yep.
And I feel like that one really flows the best out of all of them, too. I would definitely suggest giving it a look. If you haven't already, you might have. He's very popular.
Yeah, I like, especially because there's probably a lot of overlap between people who watch our stuff and him. It's the same sort of vibe, video game people.
I rap a lot.
He does, but he doesn't do it on camera.
I don't. I'm too talented, and I don't want to make anyone feel bad. What was our favorite wrestling event of the year?
Well, why don't you go first this time?
I deliberated a lot between Full Gear and the other one that I don't remember because as good as AEW's pay-per-views are, their names mix up in my head real good.
Well, it's just you don't have those years of ingrained thought traffic.
That too. But, man, Full Gear was... We watched the first two matches and went, wow, what a great pay-per-view. Oh, wait, there's more?
It was a whole pay-per-view of oops, all bangers.
Like, there was one match that was kind of dumb, I believe. But the rest of it was just solid, wall-to-wall, great shit. Some of the best wrestling I've seen in a long time. Great storylines. There was some questionable stuff. It wasn't the perfect pay-per-view, but... When we have been in the WWE desert for so fucking long...
A beautiful rainstorm of good wrestling feels real good.
And while we were bathing in this rainstorm and going, oh, it's nice to be wet again. Not 3 months later, crack-a-boom! Welcome to monsoon season, baby.
Full Gear's fucking great. It's also my favorite wrestling event of the year, and I didn't deliberate. Look, any wrestling event that's so fucking good, it sells me on a storyline I wasn't there for the build-up for, is fucking... That's some good shit. That's that good shit. That's that wrestling you want. That's the stuff that you watch wrestling for. And the fucking Kenny Omega, Adam Page... Wait, that's his name, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That shows, my
Hangman.
brain.
Yeah.
Hangman. That match, I was sold on that storyline by the time that match started. And, if the wrestling event is that fucking good that it sells me on a storyline I wasn't there for, and wasn't there for the whole Fed, essentially, that means some shit. I don't really have a lot of detailed shit to say about it because we did a podcast on it.
Speaking of our podcast of the year is the last and most self-indulgent of all the categories. What was yours?
Mine was fixing the Star Wars sequel trilogy.
That was a lot of work.
It was a lot of work. It was a lot of talking. We talked shit out beforehand. We we did everything but storyboard shit. Like we were.
Well, I didn't edit.
No,
That's a sin.
That's a step too far.
I don't edit this fucking.
That's a step too far.
I would never edit this fucking thing.
But
anything you've heard in the past that sounded like an edit, like maybe you heard a door opening and then suddenly we jumped and we're like, "What were we saying?" That wasn't edited. All right,
we're just stupid.
Yeah, we're just dumb.
But I like that because I don't like being overly negative. I don't like just shitting on things. And fixing the Star Wars trilogy with the constraints we had of you gotta keep the bones. Can something be done with these bones? Felt good. It felt constructive. It felt like I wasn't being an asshole. And that's important to me.
Yeah, I mean, like, the thing that bothers me the most... one of the worst movies I've ever seen of all time is a film called Five Across the Eyes. Talked about it before on the podcast. Will again. It roughly takes place inside of a van. It's a bunch of, I think, cheerleaders who are running from a woman who may or may not be crazy and is making them pee or whatever. It's got some of the worst dialogue, the worst cinematography, the worst plot, the worst acting I have ever seen. And yet, I was nowhere near as upset after watching that for 90 minutes or whatever the fuck it was as I was at watching Star Wars Episode 9.
Because there's a difference between just irredeemable crap and you could have done this well.
You
chose not to.
I, as a person, try so hard not to prognosticate, not to armchair book, whatever the fuck you want to call it, make my own stories that I can then be disappointed by what we actually get. And I was still able to, within moments after watching that film, go, oh my god, do blah, 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 and this movie would have been better. If that's all you fucking changed. That should not be. I'm an idiot who doesn't get paid millions of dollars. I could be if you're a millionaire and if you wanted to subscribe to my Patreon, but at present I am not.
My honorable mention is the YouTube Movies Gripes podcast, purely because it's just very funny. I had a lot of fun. It was very funny to hear White freak out about stuff.
I generally gather that that's amusing, so...
No, not nearly as complex. Just, yeah, that's fun. What you, sir? What was your favorite podcast?
Mine was the Ask Reddit Insomniac special. I don't know what the fuck. I wrote it down. I went through and I thought about it a lot when I did it.
But you can't remember
I don't
it
remember
now?
what the fuck it was. So go watch it and tell me why it's good. Honorable mention was the top 5 list. I've really loved our yearly concepts. Starting with the year of D&D, then grading movie homework, and now the top 5 lists. What will we move into in the next year? Time will tell. But, yeah, it's just really cool to have a nice backup. I remember how much we floundered before, and I liked rating these things. I liked celebrating characters we loved. It's exactly as you say. We try to be positive on this podcast. So it's nice to just be able to go, man, here's this dude I like and what I like about him. Here's this chick who's really cool. This is why she's cool. Here's this person who changed my fucking life.
Yeah, I mean, they were very fun to do. And I'm excited for the next, as yet undisclosed, yearly theme. But everything's better when nerds talk about it.